Justa smiled as his wife came into the office for there. The kids were at school and it had become a tradition. She smiled as she sat down, taking out the food she had brought, then got serious as she saw his look. "Oki, what is wrong? Is the shield not working up to specs? I told you to use the neutron generator they offered you and use their tech. Besides, it just improved Sashun tech." Justa chuckled and pressed his screen, and a shield model with a neutron generator popped up. "I do listen to you, dear, but it's not that. I had the strangest meeting just now. The Sushana Kingdom attacked some human merchant ships and sent an envoy demanding the humans surrender to their kingdom." She looked at him, shocked, stopped examining the hologram, and looked at him seriously. "Are you sure? Did they mess with their ships? They might have skipped the hunt and just sent the Navy for that." The strange thing was that they didn't know the human was the wild hunt. They thought the hunt was a separate species. It's like somebody is provoking attacks on the humans. We would never attack them if we had known, and we know the humans are not hiding the fact. She knew that look and it worried her. "Don't go do something stupid now. You barely survived last time, and I plan to have at least 20 children." He smirked and moved around the table. "Only 20? Oh, so we are not having lunch today?" She put her arms around his waist as the door beeped, and they both saw it and looked towards it. "Who's there?" At Justa's command, the door became transparent, and they saw Mr. Jacobson standing outside with a military officer in a white uniform. An admiral. From the look of it, he was apparent 30s, with short black hair and deep brown eyes, looked ageless. The uniform was bright white with a tight collar that could not be comfortable. They both cursed and separated as he gave the command to open the door. "Mr. Jacobson, what a pleasure!" He could barely hide his sarcasm. That man was the last person he wanted to see right now. "And you brought a friend." They both entered and nodded to them. "Yes, this is Admiral Johnson. He is part of the Peace Corps. They mostly deal in the Zeta section, as we are trying a new type of deterrent there. Anyway, oh please stay, Mrs. Shin, till this actually involves you. That's why I'm here. I wanted to speak with you both without your children present." Justa and his wife exchanged worried glances at this. It sounded worrisome. Mr. Jacobson picked up on it and chuckled as he called up 2 new chairs from the floor. "Don't worry. We are actually here to ask for your help. I know such things often involve a negotiation among your culture, so that's what we have been instructed to do." Justa chuckled, called up a chair next to his wife and sat down. Mr. Jacobson was showing off his cultural understanding unless he knew how serious the request would be for such a formal negotiation. "Please start by telling us what you want me or us to do so we can start the negotiation." Mr. Jacobson looked at the Admiral, and the Admiral started to speak. "As you probably guessed by now, human space has been attacked several times by different empires." As he spoke, a hologram of the galaxy appeared, and they could see the full extent of the human kingdoms. They spread like a giant cross across the whole galaxy. The humans had divided the galaxy into 4 parts, and each part was littered with different kingdoms. And all the attacks have been conducted in this area of the Andromeda. The hologram zoomed into the section. "This leads us to believe somebody here is trying to provoke us into a fight, something we are trying to avoid. We know that whoever it is has found a way to manipulate historical and military records to such a degree that they make humanity look weak. We need to find out who this is." They looked at the map and then back at the Admiral. "So what do you need us to do?" "My husband already stopped our people." His wife was intrigued but also worried as she looked at him. Justa just nodded slowly. "Well, we want him to return to your homeworld with a team, so we can gain access to the historical and military files and find out who changed them. And we would rather be invited than barge in, and we need to locate your grandfather's fleet as well. Their piracy days have to end, and again, we would rather have that cruiser return to homeworld intact as its defender than continue causing trouble. So we actually need both of you. But only Lieutenant Commander Justa, the Shadow Knight of the Crown, needs to return home." The Admiral looked straight at Justa as he addressed him directly. "So what is your demand for this?" "Safety for my family and restoration of the Empire if the evidence reveals that we were tricked." Justa looked at them as stoic as he could, and he could feel his wife looking at him proudly. Nothing would make her more proud. Mr. Jacobson and Admiral Johnson looked at each other, confused, and back at him. Yes, but what do you demand? What? That's a huge demand. Justa was confused now. Didn't they know just how much the restoration would cost them? No, that's not a demand. That's just what we would have to do. We can't endanger your family or you for that matter. You will have a squad of Wild Hunter Knights at your side at all times, and your wife will be secured, and so will your whole family. Yes, I understand that, but the restoration of the Empire? Of course, we would do that. Come on. You think we would punish you if somebody tricked you and blinded you from the truth? That's like punishing the victim for being the victim. What do you take us for? Mr. Jacobson looked shocked at this, and Justa looked at his wife, whose brain was turning. Wait, you're saying you want to know what we want? Like a small island mansion in the Pacific region of Zanzibar? A holiday to visit your home galaxy and Earth? Admiral Johnson nodded, and Justa hid his face in his hand. No. No. She is going to make a list. Mr. Jacobson chuckled. Then make a list and I will see what we can approve. Just a warning. We do not donate planets. He was clearly in a good mood and joking as he set a limit for their requests. And if it turns out our suspicions are correct, and we can prove it, then we will fulfill our part of the bargain. 2 weeks later, Justa couldn't believe it as he sat next to Mr. Jacobson outside Homeworld approaching. He never believed he would be able to return. 2 communications and now he was allowed to return by the Emperor. The potential success of this mission had been enough to make the Emperor set aside all rules and traditions for this. Mr. Jacobson seemed to be half asleep as the ship descended through the atmosphere and toward the floating palace. When the ship touched down so smoothly that he wasn't even sure if they had landed, he saw Mr. Jacobson wake up and got up. Ready? Remember, you lead the show. My second in command and leader of this part of the project. Justa took a deep breath. They had gone over this. He was given the rank of commander to show respect to the Emperor and could officially order humans around. Not Mr. Jacobson, of course, but he tended to have a hands-off way of getting things done. He seemed to trust him, too, so Justa felt more confident. The Emperor's High Knight meets him as the door slides open. Shadow Knight. The knight had a traditional uniform and wore the golden helmet that revealed his status. He also held an extra helmet in his hand and waited for him to approach him. High Knight Carter. Justa bowed his head as the 3 humans formed a line behind him. Justa knew there were 15 more of them on the platform, hidden from view. You know the law and tradition, but you are not allowed to show your face in Homeworld. There is only so much the Emperor can do before it will lead to a revolt. Fortunately, there are loopholes we can exploit. He handed him the helmet. He took it and looked it over. It was an identical design to the one the High Knight wore except for the silver color and the ink-black faceplate. He understood the meaning and put the helmet on. He would not be allowed to show his face to anybody for the duration of the stay. Thank you. I do not want to prolong the breach of protocol longer than we have to. I want to send these 2 to the Royal Library to review the historical records. They need access to everything, including security tapes. Do not attempt to hold anything from them. The Empire depends on us discovering how our disaster occurred. It felt weird to give direct orders to the highest officers in the Royal Defense Force, but he knew he had no other choice. He was the traitor who worked with the humans to save them. They would hate him later, but now they had a job to do. The High Knight nodded and 2 humans moved forward and were quickly escorted to the Royal Library.